Monan's strength was almost comparable to the supreme god of the heavenly blade, who had been determined by the supreme will and had a chance of advancing to the supreme will realm in the future. He had an additional general under his command. Zhou Fight was in a good mood. At this moment, after Monan announced that he had joined the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom due to the influence of his Lord Talent, he immediately became much more respectful to Zhou Fight. "Greetings, Your Majesty," he said respectfully. Zhou Fight nodded. Then he opened the other party's attribute panel. When he saw that the other party's loyalty was only 80 points, he couldn't help but shake his head, as expected of a quasi-supreme will realm expert. At their level, even the mythical tier, Unique Lord Talent, or even the Supreme Unique Lord Talent, had a very limited impact on them. Otherwise, if it were another Master God tier, even if he had just joined, his loyalty would at least be above 90. I have to get my main body to get a Supreme, the only level of Lord Talent to increase the loyalty of subjects. Otherwise, just relying on the peaceful times to stabilize and increase the loyalty of the new subjects would be somewhat unsafe. Zhou Fight thought to himself. The destructive power of a quasi-supreme will expert was simply too great. If they did not have a powerful method to ensure that they would not wreak havoc at a time and place that they did not notice, then it was necessary to create a supreme, the only level of Lord Talent that could increase the loyalty of the subjects. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Leave it to the main body to figure it out. Then, Fo He turned his gaze and looked at Sheila, who was riding many Master God tier and Supreme God level beasts to deal with the corpse demon dragon. Sheila had always been paying attention to the situation on Zhou Fight's side. When he saw Monan being killed by Zhou Fight, he had a bad premonition. When Sheila saw that Zhou Fight had noticed him, his heart sank. Now that he was entangled by the corpse demon dragon, he was in a state where he could neither fight nor run away. Now that the common people's regal was free to deal with him, what should he do next? He frantically racked his brains to think of a way to break out of this situation. Right at that moment, he saw Zhou Fight flying towards him with the Zhuanyuan divine sword in his mouth. As he flew over, he said loudly, "Sheila, on account of your endless cultivation, this emperor can give you a chance to live. However, you want to announce that you will leave the ultimate void race and join this emperor's Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom. Are you willing to become a citizen of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom?" Sheila was stunned for a moment before he said angrily, "You want me to join the Supreme Will? Common people's regal, don't even think about it. I'm a god spirit under the Void Emperor in my life, and I'll be a dead soul under the Void Emperor in my death. I definitely won't join your doomed camp. He is a loyal servant of the Lord. Then this emperor will fulfill your wish. Become a dead soul before meeting your great Void Emperor, as long as you can still see him," Zhou Fight said coldly. Then he turned into a golden stream of light and flew toward Sheila. "Attack! Attack! Attack! Stop this sword!" Sheila felt an extremely terrifying sense of danger from Zhou Fight's sword. It was almost instinctive. He had all the behemoths under his command charge at Zhou Fight, hoping to stop his attack. However, Zhou Fight, who had transformed into the 95 Supreme King Dragon God, was comparable to a top-notch quasi-supreme willpower realm expert. At this moment, he was using the Xuanyuan divine sword in his mouth to execute the sword Dao that contained the power of the myriad methods Star Palm. The combination of the two made the power contained in his sword reach an incomparably terrifying level. A sword light flashed past. Sheila looked at the top of his head. Immediately after, an extremely resplendent sword light extended from his head to the lowest part of his divine body. Crack. His divine body was suddenly split into two. Even the supreme god, divine spark, in his body was split into two. As for Sheila's will that resided in the divine spark, it was even destroyed by Zhou Fight's sword, quasi-supreme willpower realm expert. Sheila, dead. When Zhou Fight saw this, he had an idea. The body of the dragon god that he had transformed into, which was 90,000 light years tall, quickly disappeared. After the dragon god's body dissipated, Zhou Fight stood where the dragon god was. He raised his hand and waved. Sheila's body, which had been split into two, flew towards him. When they flew close, Zhou Fight made up his mind and chose to extract the corpse. The next second, billions of spoils of war erupted from Sheila's corpse and formed an ocean of loots around him. Zhou Fight was not surprised by this. He was in existence with the strength of a quasi-supreme will after all. It was normal for him to have many spoils of war, just like he had said. If all his treasures were dropped from the number 1 treasure vault, the total number of treasures would be enough to fill 10 boundless universes or even more. Therefore, he was not at all surprised by the loots in front of him. Let me see what good things a normal quasi-supreme realm existence has, Zhou Fight said with interest. Then, he first used a world ring to store all the treasures below the Master God tier level. To the current Zhou Fight, unless it was a Supreme God or a Supreme God level treasure, he would not be too interested. He would throw these treasures below the level of Master God tier into the Divine Kingdom's treasury for his Divine Kingdom to control. Then, he looked at the treasures in front of him that were at least at the Grade 1 Supreme God level. A cut of ordinary Supreme God level treasures. 5 Supreme Divine Artifacts. 7 Quasi-Supreme Will Realm Treasures, or Quasi-Supreme Will Divine Artifacts. In addition, there are more than 200 Master God tier Giant Beast pets, as well as an injured and unconscious Grade 2 Supreme God Giant Beast pet. No wonder it didn't fight against the corpse demon dragon. It turns out that it was injured and unconscious. Zhou Fight nodded in satisfaction after reading it. This fellow's wealth was even richer than Becky's, as expected of the Ultimate Void. Race, known for their rich heritage. How many treasures did they salvage in the void? Zhou Fight could not help but feel curious again. Right at that moment, the 16 Supreme God-level beasts and hundreds of Master God tier and Supreme God beasts flew over from afar with apprehensive expressions and stood obediently in front of Zhou Fight. Sir, Sheila is dead. We don't want to die. We want to be your subordinates, one of the Grade 4 Supreme Gods said nervously. Zhou Fight looked at their obedient appearance and could not help but laugh. This emperor killed your master. Are you really willing to submit to this emperor from the bottom of your hearts? You can't be saying that you want to submit to this emperor on the surface, but in reality, you're secretly looking for an opportunity to plot against this emperor so that you can avenge your master, right? Of course we're not. Sheila would usually use violence to make us submit to him, and often hurt us with painful punishments. We've long been dissatisfied with him. Your Majesty, you killed him and saved us. We can't be more grateful to you. Why would we think of harming you? Yeah, these behemoths hurriedly explained to Zhou Fight, afraid that he would misunderstand them. At the same time, they looked at Zhou Fight with fear in their eyes. As pets, they naturally knew how strong Sheila and Monin were. However, even such a strong guy was easily defeated by this Supreme Lord Reserve army. They simply did not dare to imagine that less than a year ago, this Supreme Lord Reserve army was just an ordinary life form without any extraordinary tier powers. How did he do it? It was unbelievable. Say that you're willing to join the Justaro, real Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom, and become this Emperor's subject of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom. This Emperor will spare your lives, Zhou Fight said calmly. Aye, my lord. They hurriedly agreed and immediately followed Zhou Fight's request. Zhou Fight smiled after hearing this. After today's battle, not only did he obtain a quasi-supreme willpower subordinate, he also obtained 16 supreme gods and 100 master gods. This was even without using the Son of Destiny in the Land of Earth, a minister of the king. Today's gains had truly exceeded his imagination. Right at that moment, the corpse demon dragon also flew in front of him. His aura was extremely weak, but his eyes were still filled with anticipation as he looked at Zhou Fight. It was as if a child was looking at the father he was so proud of. Zhou Fight looked at the other party and felt that there was not much life left in his body. He said calmly, "You're about to die." Zhou Fight smiled and said without waiting for the corpse demon dragon to react, "However, this emperor promises you that one day this emperor will definitely revive you. You deserve it, kid." Upon hearing Zhou Fight's words, a satisfied smile appeared on corpse demon dragon's face. Then, the aura of his divine body suddenly dissipated before it fell into the ultimate void. The corpse demon dragon had fallen. Zhou Fight looked at the corpse demon dragon's fallen divine body and waved his hand, summoning his divine body over. Then, he took out a world ring and placed the corpse demon dragon's corpse inside before putting it away. He meant what? He said. Since he had said that he wanted to revive him, he would definitely think of a way to revive him in the future. However, it wasn't the time yet. Even though he had many supreme gods under him, there was only one Grade 1 supreme god, Thanatos, who had the ability to revive. And his strength as a Grade 1 supreme god made it so that he could only revive a grade 1 supreme god for the time being, not to mention the existence of a quasi-supreme will. Zhou Fight frowned slightly. He had to find some methods to revive supreme gods or even quasi-supreme willpower experts as soon as possible. Otherwise, the lives of the supreme gods under him would be in danger. He was already used to winning without any casualties, so he could not accept any casualties among his soldiers, especially the supreme gods. He knew that his idea was too strange. Who wouldn't die in war? But what to do? He had already been spoiled by the resurrection ability. Furthermore, Zhou Fight did not want to change his thoughts and habits. A war where no one died is strange, but isn't it good? In any case, he felt that a war where no one died was quite good. Zhou Fight stopped thinking and turned to look at the battlefield far away. Then he nodded. Even though the number of troops brought by Monan and Sheila was terrifying, the combined army of gods under him and the Lord of 10,000 Evils were not much worse. In terms of the number of supreme gods, there was only a difference of 40 to 50. However, the supreme gods under him were all equipped with supreme divine artifacts. Their strength far exceeded their peers. Therefore, when they joined forces with the supreme gods under Lord of 10,000 Evils to deal with these enemies, they would at most feel a little strained and not be considered dangerous at all. He flipped his right hand and saw Manan's divine spark appear in his hand. Then he took out more than 100 natural treasures that emitted a rich divine power of life from his left hand. With a thought, he saw that the life force inside the 100-odd natural treasures was instantly extracted by Zhou Fight with his powerful willpower. After some purification, they turned into a large amount of ownerless and pure life force that gathered on Manan's divine spark. "Monan, pay attention to reconstructing your divine body," Zhou Fight said in a deep voice. "Yes, Your Majesty." In the divine spark, Monan's expression turned solemn. He tried his best to release the power of his will and absorb the ownerless, divine power of life in the outside world. With the help of these ownerless life forces, his divine body quickly began to condense. In less than a moment, Monan recovered more than half of his divine body. Zhou Fight clicked his tongue. The divine body of a quasi-supreme willpower realm expert required a lot of life divine power. These 100 or so natural treasures were enough to mold the bodies of more than 10 grade 4 supreme gods, but now they were only enough to mold more than half of Manan's divine body. He shook his head and did not mind. He took out more than 300 natural treasures and repeated the previous steps to reconstruct Manan's quasi-supreme will divine body. Finally, when more than half of the life divine power of these 300 heavenly treasures was absorbed by Manan's quasi-supreme will realm divine body finally condensed again. However, even though he had the divine body of a quasi-supreme will, his divine spirit realm was only at the lowest grade 1 supreme god level. Seeing this, Zhou Fight first ate the remaining divine power of life as if he was eating candy under Manan's dumbfounded gaze. Then he took out a total of 1,000,000 grade 3 supreme god realm crystals. "Come, absorb as much as you want. This emperor wants to see how many grade 3 supreme god realm crystals a quasi-supreme willpower realm expert like you can. Absorb to recover your quasi-supreme willpower realm strength," Zhou Fight said with interest. Monan swallowed his non-existent saliva. Why did he have the illusion that he was being used as an experimental evaluation material? He did not dare to think too much, and immediately controlled the power from his will to absorb these grade 3 supreme god realm crystals. A moment later, Zhou Fight realized that he had underestimated the total divine power contained in these 1,000,000 grade 3 supreme god realm crystals. At the same time, he had overestimated the amount of divine power needed by quasi-supreme willpower realm experts. This Monan had only absorbed about 200,000 grade 3 supreme god realm divine crystals, and raised his strength back to the so quasi-supreme will realm. Seeing this, he put away the remaining supreme god divine crystals. Monan, on the other hand, was overjoyed. He clearly felt that he had recovered to his peak strength. No, it was not just his peak strength. Because he was a rebuilt divine body, some old hidden injuries had all disappeared. Monan even felt that he was stronger than he was at his peak. He looked at Zhou Fight and rubbed his hands nervously. "Your Majesty, my world ring..." Zhou Fight did not say anything else and threw his world ring to Monan. After Monan received it, it immediately recognized him as its master again. Then his will entered. Then he realized that most of the assets in his world rings had not disappeared. Even his top-notch supreme divine artifacts were quietly placed in the world rings. Their positions had not changed. He even saw a complete set of grade 4 supreme divine artifacts that were higher level and more suitable for him than his original supreme divine artifact in his world ring. Monin was certain that if he changed into this top-notch supreme divine artifact, his strength would definitely be at least 30% stronger than before he reconstructed his divine body. This supreme divine artifact was undoubtedly bestowed to him by His Majesty. Monin was very grateful to His Majesty. However, his gratitude quickly disappeared because he realized that there was a treasure missing from his world ring. It was also the only missing treasure, that holy artifact of his ancestor, Formless Book. Monin opened his mouth. He carefully glanced at Zhou Fight, who looked normal with mixed feelings. In the end, he did not say that he wanted the Formless Book back. He consoled himself. That's something you can control. He had already lost the Formless Book to His Majesty. Clearly, His Majesty was more suitable to control the Formless Book than him. He chose to forget that the Formless Book originally belonged to his ancestor. Right. At that moment, he discovered that His Majesty, looking at the battlefield below, suddenly raised his right hand. Shortly after, a soft voice sounded. All the people in the world are the king's subjects. Swoosh! A 9-colored domain instantly spread out in all directions with Zhou Fight as the center. In the blink of an eye, it covered an area of 1,000,000 light years and enveloped the armies of both sides on the battlefield. Then, Zhou Fight instantly felt that half of the supreme divine power in his body instantly disappeared. The next second, the ultimate Void Race army on the battlefield instantly gave up on fighting. They looked in Zhou Fight's direction with a fanatical expression before bowing to him. Greetings, Your Majesty, tens of billions of ultimate Void God spirits, 5 billion ultimate Void true God tiers, more than 30,000 ultimate Void Master God tiers, and 12 ultimate Void Supreme Gods, said respectfully in unison. This scene shocked all the God spirits present. Even the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's God Spirit Army, which was familiar with His Majesty's methods, was stunned. Wasn't he only able to instigate half of the Insight defection in the past? When did its effect become 100% now? No, not all of them. Bai Yun and a few Supreme Gods with good eyesight noticed that most of the Supreme Gods who were still alive in the Ultimate Void Army did not surrender. Only the 12 Ultimate Void Supreme Gods surrendered. There were still 30 to 40 Supreme Gods who were still resisting. As for the remaining Supreme Gods, they were naturally destroyed by Bai Yun and gang. Even though they had also paid a certain number of casualties. In Bai Yun's opinion, these casualties were completely worth it. Kill! Their momentum is gone. Destroy these remaining Supreme Gods. However, we don't have to be anxious. We can slowly exhaust them to death. They can't escape or resist. Seeing this, Bai Yun immediately ordered. These remaining Supreme Gods were already turtles in a jar. They had surrounded they with an army. As long as they spent some time, it was very simple to exhaust them to death. The Supreme Gods naturally understood this logic. They immediately led their armies to surround them, and then continuously attacked these trapped Ultimate Void. Supreme Gods, beginning to exhaust their divine power and willpower bit by bit. When their divine power and willpower were completely exhausted, it would be the end of them. At the same time, Zhou Fight also looked at the notification of the law skill that appeared in front of him. Text notification appeared. Lord Law Skill. Hint. You have used the Grade 1 Supreme God Law Skill, Land of Earth, a Minister of the King. You have successfully changed the thoughts and wills of the life forms in the domain and turned them into subjects loyal to you. Congratulations, you have obtained the loyalty of 51,223, 108,371 Ultimate Void God Spirits, 5,181, 37,123 Ultimate Void True God Tiers, 31,931 Ultimate Void Master God Tiers, and 12 Ultimate Void Supreme Gods. Zhou Fight nodded in satisfaction after reading it. The use of the Land of Earth, a Minister of the King, directly gave him so many God Spirits, and what he spent was only some insignificant Supreme God Divine Power. There was only one word to describe this outcome. It was a huge profit. Besides, I still haven't used the one chance of Son of Destiny. Zhou Fight's lips curled up. With the Son of Destiny in the Land of Earth, a Minister of the King, The growth of the forces under him would increase again. Then he glanced at the battlefield where the army was and realized that Bai Yun was leading the other supreme gods to attack the remaining 30-odd ultimate void supreme gods. He looked at Monan. Monan, can you convince them to submit to this emperor? He asked. Hearing this, a troubled expression appeared on Monan's face, but he still nodded firmly. Even though it's unlikely, I can give it a try. Go. Zhou. Fight nodded. Monan nodded and turned into a stream of light that flew towards the battlefield. A moment later, Monan returned with injuries of all sizes. He looked ashamed and said, Your Majesty, I failed. They are very firm in their belief. In the Void Emperor. I tried my best, but they were unwilling to submit to you, Your Majesty. They even said that I was a shameful traitor and came up to besiege me. If Legion Commander Bai Yun hadn't led the other supreme gods to rescue me, I'm afraid I would have died there. Zhou Fight held back his laughter and said, You've worked hard. This reward is for you. Go back and recuperate. He threw a world ring to Monan as he spoke. After Monan received it, his will entered and took a look. His eyes immediately lit up. In this world ring were a large number of supreme god-level divine medicines that could be used to heal the injuries that he had suffered. Furthermore, even if he used these divine medicines to treat his injuries, this time, the remaining divine medicines were enough for him to experience 3 to 4 life and death battles in the future. Then they would be more than enough to treat him. His Majesty was really a godly tycoon. Thank you for the reward, Your Majesty, he said respectfully. The loyalty on the interface increased by several points. This emperor will not mistreat any subordinate who serves this emperor, Zhou Fight said calmly. Monan was very excited when he heard this. He increasingly felt that joining the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom and becoming a subordinate of the common people's regal was the right choice. At this moment, he saw Zhou Fight looking down at the battlefield. Monan, this time, bring these supreme gods together and cooperate with Bai Yun and them to eliminate all these fellows who are unwilling to submit. Don't hold back, he ordered calmly. Yes, Your Majesty. Monan nodded. He knew that this was a chance for him to prove his allegiance. His Majesty's attitude towards his in the future would probably depend on his performance this time. He looked at the ultimate void supreme god below. Some of these supreme gods were once his enemies, some were his friends, some had worked together before, and even though they did not know each other, they had seen each other in the sanctuary. However, no matter what their identities were in the past, it didn't matter now. All Monan knew was that they were about to welcome their death. Kill! Destroy these stubborn enemies, Monan ordered. Then he immediately charged toward these ultimate void supreme gods who resisted. The other supreme gods and master god tiers followed closely behind and faced the enemy together. The two sides soon engaged in battle. After watching Monan fight with all his might and mercilessly for a while, Zhou Fight nodded in his heart. It seemed that 80 points of loyalty could still be used. However, it was still safer to increase his loyalty to more than 90 points. And with the addition of a quasi-supreme will realm expert like Monan, it was easier for Bai Yun and them to suppress these ultimate void supreme gods. In less than an hour, they had completely eliminated these ultimate void supreme gods who resisted. We actually won. The Lord of 10,000 Evils came to Zhou Fight's side, his face filled with disbelief. He looked at Zhou Fight with a blank expression. How did this guy do it? They were two quasi-supreme willpower realm experts, but now one of them had died, and the other had directly become his subordinate. The Lord of 10,000 Evils could not help but recall the day he saw Zhou Fight. At that time, Zhou Fight was not even a supreme god who was clearly envious when he looked at him and his subordinates. But now, he was the one who was envious, but the other party had become the person he was envious of. Is this a different guy from the common people's regal? I knew at the beginning. The Lord of 10,000 Evils even had such thoughts. Zhou Fight looked at the confused expression on Lord of 10,000 Evils' face and smiled. What are you looking at, Brother Demon Lord? Nothing. Lord of 10,000 Evils smiled bitterly. I just feel that you're growing too quickly. I feel that in the blink of an eye, I won't be able to catch up to you. He's far behind you in terms of strength and strength. Isn't that a good thing? Zhou Fight smiled. The Lord of 10,000 Evils was stunned. He heard Zhou Fight say, You? and I are brothers. If my strengthened faction becomes stronger, it will naturally be beneficial to Brother Demon Lord. Is there a downside? The Lord of 10,000 Evils immediately laughed. That's true. The higher the strength of the common people's regal, the only disadvantage for him was that the chances of him obtaining the Supreme Lord from the other party were lower. But the Lord of 10,000 Evils had already recognized reality, be it to the common people's regal, God, King, Heaven, Punishment, or the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord. There was already an extremely obvious difference in strength between him and them, especially compared to the latter two. The difference was like the difference between heaven and earth. In fact, the probability of him obtaining the Supreme Lord's inheritance was very small. Now, there was another common people's regal who was close to those two fellows, but it didn't seem to matter to him. At the thought of this, the Lord of 10,000 Evils felt enlightened. Zhou Fight smiled when he saw this and did not say anything else. He turned around and ordered the battlefield to be cleaned up. Then he led the army and flew straight to the other Void Mystic Realms. Their goal today was a total of 8 Void Mystic Realms. Now, just the White Dawn Void Mystic Realm alone had delayed them for so long. They had to hurry up and conquer the remaining Void Mystic Realms. Fortunately, after the Land of Earth, a minister of the king, the strength of his forces increased again. In the following period of time, conquering the remaining 7 Void Mystic Realms should not be a problem. At the same time, just as the ultimate Void God Spirit army led by Monan and Sheila was completely destroyed, the holy domain of the ultimate Void race. In the Holy Temple, the Void Emperor was still resting on his holy throne with his eyes closed. The more than 2,000 ultimate Void Supreme Gods below were all looking at the dark silver ceiling above, their heads. On the ceiling, that originally had more than 2,000 dark silver tiles, more than 100 tiles were completely shattered, causing a large portion of the dark silver ceiling to be damaged, making the Holy Temple seem like a tattered Holy Temple. These 2,000 Supreme Gods understood the meaning of this scene very well. This meant that more than 100 ultimate Void Supreme Gods had died. Moreover, among the more than 100 damaged dark silver tiles, there was a huge tile that was 4 to 5 times larger than the other ordinary tiles. It represented the position of the quasi-supreme willpower realm expert of the ultimate Void race, and at this moment, its damage also meant that one of the quasi-supreme will realm experts of the ultimate Void race had died. That was an ultimate member of the Void race who had the chance to advance to the supreme will realm in the future. Such an existence that concerned the rise and fall of their race actually died. How could they not be furious? The remaining 900 ultimate Void Supreme Gods discussed among themselves. As time passed, the discussion of them became louder and louder. In the end, the entire Void Holy Temple was very noisy because of their discussion, like a market. A small number of ultimate Void Supreme Gods who remained silent were used to this. When the ultimate Void race, they invaded the great cosmos, they would have such internal discussions once they encountered a difficult enemy. To put it nicely, this was freedom of speech. To put it bluntly, it was poor organization and discipline. The key was that the Void Emperor rarely cared about their matters. As a result, it was a custom that they had preserved until now. Just as the discussion of these ultimate Void Supreme Gods became more and more intense, quiet. His voice resounded throughout the entire sanctuary, and the ultimate Void Supreme Gods instantly fell silent. Even though they had extremely free speech when the Void Emperor spoke, they would also be very obedient. Right at that moment, the figure of a supreme willpower expert of the ultimate Void race slowly appeared within the sacred hall. He appeared in the form of a projection. His main body was clearly not in the Holy Hall, or even in the ultimate Void battlefield. Greetings. Your Majesty, Meng Tuo, a supreme willpower practitioner. Meng Tuo said respectfully. Meng Tuo. You're here about your junior, aren't you? The Void Emperor said. Yes, Your Majesty. I'm here for my descendant, Monan. Meng Tuo's tone was a little agitated. Monan is the junior who is most likely to advance to the supreme will realm among my descendants. In order to accumulate experience and credit for Monan, I specially lent my treasure, the Formless Book, to him. I didn't expect that not only did he fail to return from crusading against that common people's regal, he even died there. The Formless Book also fell into the hands of the enemy. Your Majesty, I can't accept this. I will avenge my child. I want my treasure back, Meng Tuo roared. Be it Monan or the Formless Book, they were both things that Meng Tuo valued the most. How could he not be angry now that both of them had left his side? The surrounding ultimate Void Supreme Gods were also in an uproar. It was fine if Manan's grandson died, but the Formless Book was a will-holy artifact. It must not. fall into another's hands. Even the ultimate void race did not have many holy artifacts of this level. Now, they actually fell into the hands of that common people's regal, the ultimate void. Supreme gods immediately showed signs of arguing again. Calm down, Manan. The void sovereign's voice was dignified. It once again suppressed the voices of the god spirits. After the gods calmed down, he slowly said, "Your formless book did fall into the hands of that common people's regal, but your child, Monan, did not die." Monan didn't die. Meng Tuo was stunned. Then why didn't he respond to my call? Monan almost died once, but later on he was rebuilt by the common people's regal and saved. As for why he didn't reply to your call, the reason is very simple. He has already become a loyal subordinate of the common people's regal, the Void Emperor said indifferently. "No way," Meng Tuo immediately retorted. "My child, how can he submit to the common people's regal?" "Would I lie to you?" the Void Emperor said unhappily. "Your Majesty, you've misunderstood. Why would I think that? I just find it a little difficult to accept the truth," Meng Tuo hurriedly said in fear. Even though he was a supreme willpower realm expert, he naturally could not compare to the Void Emperor. He did not dare, or was unwilling to offend the Void Emperor. At this moment, he suddenly thought of something and shouted, "I got it. I heard that the common people's regal is best at bewitching people. Many supreme gods in our ultimate void camp have been bewitched by him with such methods. Monan must have been bewitched to be under the command of the common people's regal because of this method." He had a solemn expression, as if he approved of his speculation. However, what the Void Emperor said next froze him in place. He said, "Monan wasn't bewitched by the common people's regal, but because he was afraid of death." "I don't believe it." Meng Tuo's face turned red. "Why would my child do such a thing?" The Void Emperor glanced at Meng Tuo and replayed the scene on the battlefield. When Meng Tuo saw that Monan had been beaten into a supreme god divine, Spark by Zhou Fight, and then begged Zhou Fight to surrender inside the supreme god divine Spark, he immediately froze on the spot. When the other supreme gods saw this, they did not dare to speak, afraid that they would anger Meng Tuo. The Void Emperor looked at him indifferently. Speaking of which, this was the first ultimate void race god spirit that was willing to take the initiative to surrender to the common people's regal. When the other ultimate void race god spirits faced the Zhou War, other than being used by Zhou Fight to use the Son of Destiny in the Land of Earth, a minister of the king to instigate incite defection, the rest would fight to the death. But when it came to Monan, it was terrible. The Void Emperor shook his head inwardly. After a long time, Meng Tuo suddenly knelt on the ground and gritted his teeth. "Reporting to your Majesty, I know my mistake. I'm willing to redeem myself and personally fight. I'm willing to kill the common people's regal and snatch back the treasure, the formless book. I'm also willing to personally kill Monan, the traitor who humiliated our ultimate void race." "You're oversimplifying," the Void Emperor said indifferently. "The common people's regal only has the strength of the quasi-supreme will realm. Even if we send our subordinates to deal with him, we can only rely on quasi-supreme will realm experts to deal with him. Otherwise, if I send you, the Supreme Will will similarly send Supreme Willpower experts to deal with you. If I reinforce another Supreme Will realm, the other party will also reinforce another Supreme Will realm. Initially, it was just a battle between the juniors. The outcome would be decided by the juniors. Once an existence at our level interferes, it's very likely to turn into a battle at the Supreme Will realm. In the end, I, the Supreme Will, and the Crimson Overlord might even personally participate. When the time comes, even if we want. To stop, we might not be able to. Our ultimate void race is not ready to risk our lives to fight the Supreme Will. Them. I'm not ready for that either, the Void Emperor said inwardly. Meng Tuo was instantly speechless. The ultimate void race of them was indeed not prepared to start a war with the Supreme Great Cosmos and the Crimson Great Cosmos. This was because a portion of their troops were still fighting against the wills of other universes. The battle over there was much more intense than here. Even unmatched will realm existences personally participated. It was unlike the ultimate void battleground, where even a quasi-supreme will realm existence rarely appeared. "So we're just going to let it go?" Meng Tuo was very indignant. Of course not," the Void Emperor said lightly. "In all these years, common people's regal is the first enemy to make us beasts suffer so many losses. If we give up just like that, the enemies of the other universes will only think that we've become weaker. At that time, we'll encounter an even greater danger. In order to prove our strength, the common people's regal must die. can also agree to let you assassinate the common people's regal. However, you have to pretend, disguise as a quasi-supreme will realm expert. Only then can we kill the common people's regal and not cause a full-scale war with the supreme will. Disguise? Meng Tuo's expression became troubled. My disguise technique should be easily seen through by the supreme will, right? Your disguise will naturally be easily seen through by the supreme will, but mine won't, the Void Emperor said. Meng Tuo was delighted when he heard that. With His Majesty personally taking action, the common people's regal's life will definitely be easy to capture. I've helped you as much as I can, Meng Tuo. Your junior has already disappointed me once. I hope you won't disappoint me again. Otherwise, you can go to the Yazun battlefield, the Void Emperor said indifferently. When Meng Tuo heard this, he immediately panicked. The Yazun battlefield was an ancient battlefield left behind by a true invincible existence that had reached the fusion of illusionary and reality and above the willpower. That place was extremely dangerous. Even unmatched will realm cultivators could die if they entered. Only by entering with willpower could they live comfortably, but there was also a certain risk. However, even so, there were still many wills that came to that ancient battlefield one after another. Why? This was because it was said that there was a supreme inheritance left behind by Your Excellency Subjugator on the battlefield. Whoever obtained that inheritance might even be able to fuse illusionary and reality, let alone willpower. Apart from that, there were also a large number of inheritances of the supreme will realm and the inheritances left behind by some willpower powerhouses. Therefore, many willpower realm existences still went forward to take risks, even if they knew that the battlefield of the sub-venerables was extremely dangerous, and there were all kinds of ancient traps, mechanisms, and dangerous places. Meng Tuo had been there once, but he died. If not for the fact that his descendant had spent more than half of his wealth to invite the Void Emperor to revive him, he would probably still be dead. Hence, after his resurrection, Meng Tuo never went to the battlefield of the Quasi-Zun again. His strength was not strong among all the Supreme Will Realm experts to begin with. Now that he had lost the supreme treasure, the formless book, wouldn't he be courting death if he went to the sub-supremacy battlefield under such circumstances? He did not have that much wealth to ask the Void Emperor to revive him again. I'll do it well. I promise it won't fail, Meng Tuo immediately promised. I hope so, the Void Emperor said indifferently. Then Meng Tuo took his leave. After Meng Tuo left, the Void Emperor's figure gradually disappeared, and he arrived at a silver palace. This was his own palace, and no outsiders were allowed to enter. The Void Emperor often cultivated and thought here. However, he had not come here to cultivate or think. He took out an incomplete illusory seal and muttered to himself. Illusionary, legendary. Tyr Sage Seal, where are you? If it weren't for you, why would I stand up to those two guys in this crappy place for so long? They probably already guessed that I had other motives. Ugh, eternal immortal realm. When can I reach that level? At the same time, in the land of dusk, the quasi-supreme will of the Heavenly Blade was fighting more than 10 existences of the illusionist clan in a canyon. This group of illusionist clan members had strange methods and were good at playing with people's hearts. They were also extremely skilled in willpower attacks. However, as a saber expert, the will of the Heavenly Blade quasi-supreme will realm was like a saber that could cut through anything. The last thing they were afraid of was the sinister methods and will attacks of these illusionary race. Therefore, the illusionist clan clearly had the advantage in numbers, but they could not do anything to the supreme will of the Heavenly Blade. After a while, the quasi-supreme will of the Heavenly Blade slashed apart the dozen or so powerhouses of the illusionist clan who were also at the quasi-supreme will realm. Then he said calmly to them, "Is that all you've got? This is far from enough if you want to kill me." The quasi-supreme willpower realm experts of the illusionary race were furious and cursed. However, the words that they scolded were very powerless because they really could not do anything to the Heavenly Blade quasi-supreme will. The Heavenly Blade. Quasi-supreme will realm shook their heads expressionlessly when they saw they break through their defenses. I guess you're not the right people for me to hone my skills with. Then I'll give you a ride. After saying that, he raised the divine knife in his hand and covered half of his face, leaving only half of his cold and heartless face. In the next breath, the divine saber in his hand suddenly emitted an infinite saber beam, willpower skill, heaven-slaying saber. Swoosh! When the light dissipated, they saw that the dozen or so quasi-supreme will realm Illusionist clan members had already fallen to the ground and were no longer breathing. He killed more than 10 quasi-Supreme Will Realm cultivators with a single slash. Seeing this, Heavenblade nodded. His strength was indeed much higher than before. He came to the Land of Dusk. There were many experts in the Land of Dusk. Quasi-Supreme Will Realm experts often appeared. The Supreme Will was right. This was indeed the most suitable place for him to practice his saber. As long as he trained here for a period of time, he had a high chance of advancing to the quasi-Supreme Will Realm. At the thought of this, he couldn't help but think of Zhou Zhou again. I wonder how the Regal is doing, he thought to himself. He thought about how the full-strength attack he had given the Regal last time had been used up, not long after. The sense of urgency in his heart intensified, and he tightened his grip on the saber. No way. He wanted to find stronger opponents to experience life and death. Only then could he advance to the true Supreme Will Realm as soon as possible. When the time came, in the ultimate void beyond the myriad worlds, he also had the right to protect Zhou Zhou, just as he wanted to leave. An existence that emitted an infinite pure white light appeared in front of him. He had a jade-like face and a gentle expression, emitting a great maternal glow. It was the Supreme Will. Greetings, Lord Supreme Will. Heavenblade was stunned and immediately said respectfully. The Supreme Will nodded and smiled. I just saw it. You've made great progress. It's all thanks to your Excellency's nurturing. Otherwise, I wouldn't have improved so much, the Heavenly Blade said sincerely. The Supreme Will not only instructed God, King Heaven Punishment, to pay attention to him, but also to remember to save him if he encountered danger while he was training here. The Supreme Will would even occasionally personally descend to guide he on his path. The reason why he had improved so much during this period of time was not only because he was considered talented, but also because of the guidance of the Supreme Will. I'm not the only one who contributed to your great improvement. I saw that the pills given to you by the common people's Regal saved you several times. The Supreme Will laughed. Yes, His Majesty's. Pills saved me many times. Without His Majesty's pills to save my life, I'm afraid I would have died somewhere in the Land of Dusk by now. The Heaven Blade said seriously, in order to pursue the path of the saber, he would find a few, a dozen, or even dozens of Supreme Divine level experts, or even quasi-Supreme Wills, to attack him every time. Such a siege could undoubtedly increase the pressure on him. In the face of a huge life and death crisis, he could seek an opportunity to break through and improve. But you can't walk by the river without getting your shoes wet. Occasionally, Heaven's Blade would misjudge the enemy's strength. When he encountered an enemy he couldn't resist, he would be forced into a desperate situation by the enemy. He might even be seriously injured and almost die if he didn't have those supreme God-level divine medicines given to him by the common people's Regal, allowing him to recover time and time again and escape. Now, he wouldn't have the confidence to carry out life and death battles to improve himself. The Supreme Will smiled and said, I came here today to let you know something. The Heaven Blade was stunned. What was so important that an existence like the Supreme Will would personally come to remind him? You'll see. The Supreme Will smiled and waved his right hand gently. An illusory projection appeared in front of the Heavenly Blade. Heavenly Blade looked over with great curiosity. Then he saw Zhou fighting two quasi-Supreme Willpower experts alone. Among them, Manan belonged to the kind of top quasi-Supreme Willpower experts who were on par with him. The Heaven Blade was stunned seeing this. How long had it been? His Majesty's strength had already increased to this extent. Then, when he saw Manan take out the formless book and summon the true blood incarnation of a Supreme Will, he began to worry about Zhou Fight's safety again. And when he saw that Zhou Fight had withstood the other party's attack without suffering any damage, he immediately fell silent. At this moment, he had already realized. His Majesty's strength had actually already surpassed his own. Then what was the point of working so hard? Don't wait for a while longer. He had yet to become a Supreme Will Realm expert, but His Majesty had already become a Supreme Will Realm expert. Heavenly Blade, do you think you might not be able to catch up to the growth of the common people's Regal? The Supreme Will looked at the conflicted and confused expression on the other party's face and asked with a smile. The Heavenly Blade was silent for a moment before nodding. You don't have to worry about that. The Supreme Will said, even though common people's Regal's current strength is already a top-notch quasi-Supreme Will Realm existence, there are almost no existences below the Supreme Will Realm that can defeat him. However, his true strength realm is still only that of a grade 1 supreme god. He is still very, very far from the existence of the supreme will realm. As for you, I dare to conclude that you will definitely enter the supreme will realm faster than the common people's regal and can protect him from there. Don't think that he is stronger than you now. Your own efforts won't mean much. He only doesn't have many enemies at the quasi-supreme will realm, but in the supreme will realm, or even in the realm of will transcendence, there are still existences who want him dead. Facing the methods of such an existence, even the common people's regal with many methods can't escape death. And the only way for him to survive is through you. Hearing this, Tianren's divine body trembled. His eyes lit up again, and a sense of urgency rose in his heart. That's right. From the illusory projection, his majesty was indeed unrivaled in the quasi-supreme will realm. However, it was precisely because of this that enemies at the supreme will realm would begin to target their emperor. 而陛下，如果在危机降临时没有地狱的手段，那可就真危险了。And only by advancing to the supreme will realm could he protect his majesty at that time. I see, my lord. The supreme will nodded and said, I'm telling you this news because you're pushing yourself too hard. Advancing to the supreme will realm is not something that can be done quickly if you want to pursue speed. Settle down, fill your knife, and think about your path. Sometimes the slowest path may be the fastest. Thank you for your guidance, Your Excellency. This junior understands. Heavenblade pondered for a moment before saying respectfully. The supreme will nodded slightly and disappeared in front of Heavenblade. Feel my knife, think my way. After the heavenly blade saw the supreme will leave, its gaze landed on the saber in its hand again as it thought about the supreme will's words. After a long time, he suddenly put away the saber and carried it on his back. He turned around and walked towards a distant mountain peak. He wanted to be alone for a while and quietly think about his Tao. At night, Zhou fight and Lord of 10,000 Evils led the army back. After a day of relentless fighting, they finally broke through the other 7 void mystic realms. At this point, the territories of the Lotus Flame War territories and the Fire Poison War were completely under Zhou Fight's control. There were no longer any hidden dangers. After he and Lord of 10,000 Evils returned to the Demon Lord base planet, Lord of 10,000 Evils held a grand celebration ceremony and gathered all the god spirits on the entire Demon Lord base planet and all the god spirit armies from both sides to participate in this ceremony. The entire ceremony went very smoothly. All the god spirits ate and drank happily. As Zhou Fight chatted and drank with Lord of 10,000 Evils, he also diverted his attention to open his information panel. He looked over. User. Lord of the Blazing Sun, Supreme Lord's 4th Reserve Army, Ultimate Void Battleground, the second leader of the Supreme Will Camp. Military merits, 22 million military merits. Mission medal, 20, Supreme God. Mission medals, other rewards, 2, Universal Race. Divine artifacts, Zhou Fight nodded in satisfaction. After reading it, other rewards, 2 Universal Race divine artifacts. However, there was no hurry. He could look at the 2 racial divine artifacts rewarded by the mission first. The first racial divine artifact was a heart-shaped racial divine artifact. He was even beating. If one listened closely, they could hear the clear and powerful sound of a beating heart. The second racial divine artifact was a golden key. He looked over. When new subjects are born, there's a 20% chance of awakening light-type talent. It will increase the darkness type. Immunity of the subject's stances to reduce 20% darkness-type damage. Race Divine Artifact. Heaven Key. Beginner grade. Race Divine Artifact. A universal race. Divine Artifact that has the ability to open any divine artifact with the characteristic of lock. After the Lord recognizes it as its master, the probability of its subjects comprehending lock-picking techniques when facing an ownerless item increases by 1%. It increases the talent of the subject's shadow law. When a new subject is born, there's a 10% chance of awakening the talent Skillful Hands or Shadow Hiding. After Zhou Fight looked at the 2 Universal Race divine artifacts, he could not help but think. The Heart of Darkness was fine. It was the racial divine artifact that he needed the most to increase the immunity of subjects. However, the other general-purpose racial divine artifact, the Key of Heaven, felt strange no matter how he looked at it. His ability to activate any divine artifact with the characteristics of lock was undoubtedly very useful. However, the later abilities were a little misleading. Hands plus Shadow Hiding. Hiss! The thief was overjoyed. Zhou Fight subconsciously did not want it to acknowledge him as its master. However, as the saying goes, one has a sharp blade and killing intent arises. There were some things that one could not think too much about when they did not have them, but once they did, it was easy to think too much. He did not want a group of despicable thieves to be born among his subjects. There were so many racial divine artifacts in the Supreme God Realm Monument. He would not feel regretful about missing out on such a beginner-grade racial divine artifact. However, he quickly thought of something that made he decide to recognize this racial divine artifact as his master. Recalled his racial talent in the Peaceful Times? Even though the Peaceful Times was only an extraordinary tier lord talent, it allowed Zhou Zhou's Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom to prosper and be stable. Politics were clear. The people lived and worked in peace. They were simple, kind, and hardworking. Coupled with the enhancement of the other lord talents, titles, and racial divine artifacts, the subjects of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom might not all be saints, but they were at least good people. This was very unimaginable to the subjects of the other territories. However, with the enhancement of many lord talents, racial divine artifacts, and titles, the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom really did it. Compared to the war and chaos outside, the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom was definitely worthy of its name as the Peaceful Times. Its reputation had even spread. It was not only the subjects from other places in the High Continent that were migrating to the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom. They wanted to become subjects of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom and enjoy the various benefits and peace of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom. Even the myriad worlds in the universe knew of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's peaceful times. Some superhumans with the ability to move across worlds fought to come to the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom on the High Continent. From other worlds, wanting to become subjects of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom. As there were too many living beings who wanted to immigrate, the Immigration and Nationality Management Departments of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom even specially adopted a policy to restrict immigration. They issued an order to prohibit immigration to living beings who had serious criminal experience. Only then did the pressure on immigration ease a little. Fortunately, the territory of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom was constantly expanding every day. These new subjects could at least have a place to live and work. Speaking of which, it was precisely because Zhou Fight believed in the kindness of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom subjects that he decided to recognize this racial divine artifact as its master. Furthermore, he would continue to become stronger in the future and obtain more treasures. He was confident that he could turn the key of heaven into a racial divine artifact that only had benefits and no harm. After that, Zhou Fight chatted with Lord of 10,000 Evils for a while more. Then, he said that he had something on and left alone. He came to the Supreme God Realm Monument. He opened the Supreme God Realm Monument and began to check which race divine artifacts were suitable for him to exchange. Zhou Fight opened the Supreme God Realm Monument and opened the Racial Divine Artifact interface. He directly searched for the exclusive racial divine artifact of the Blazing Sun God race, human race. To advance to a high-level Master God tier kingdom, a lord needed to possess 50 racial divine artifacts of their race. As for the Blazing Sun God race divine artifacts in his hands, he currently only had 45. He still needed 5 more to meet this advancement requirement. It's too slow to look for them one by one. It was better to buy it directly from the Supreme God Realm Monument. As for buying an immunity-type divine artifact, he could put it aside for now. In any case, he was not in a hurry. After observing for a while, he quickly found the purchase target. Racial divine artifact, bronze galloping horse, beginner grade racial artifact. A racial artifact, exclusive to the human race. After the Lord places it in the territory, the people under his command will have a certain amount of riding talent, and the territory will be more likely to produce horses with high qualifications and pure bloodlines. When the people ride horse-like pets into the territory of an alien race, the horse's speed is increased by 10%, and when the cavalry charges against the alien race, the lethality is increased by 50%. Military merit required for exchange, 2 million military merits, 3 supreme mission medals. Racial artifact, Simu Wu Ding, beginner grade racial artifact. A racial artifact exclusive to the human race. After the Lord places it in the territory, the copper production in the territory will increase by 20%. The people in the territory will have more respect for women who are mothers without affecting their rationality. The Lord's subjects and people will love the Lord more and abide by the laws of the territory. Military merit required for redemption, 1 million military. Merit, 2 supreme mission medals. Racial divine artifact along the river. During the Qingming festival, beginner grade racial artifact. a racial artifact exclusive to the human race. After the Lord integrates it into the core of the territory will be more likely to attract outside painters to join the territory, greatly increasing the painting talent of the people. At the same time, the people of the territory will love the mountains and rivers of the motherland more. Military merit required. For exchange, 3 million military merits, 1 supreme mission medal, racial divine artifact, you, the Great Nine Cauldrons, advanced grade racial artifact, a racial artifact exclusive to the human race. After the Lord places it in the territory, it can suppress the luck of the Lord and the territory forces, so that it will not be lost or stolen. It is less likely to cause rebellion within the territory. When a foreign race invades, the Lord and the territory forces can react faster, while minimizing the losses and counterattacking the invading foreign races as quickly as possible. When defeating the enemy, there's a 10% chance of obtaining the Nine Cauldrons treasure box, which can contain the Heart of Mist, equipment, materials, talent cards, divine crystals, architectural drawings, pet eggs. Military merit required for redemption, 6 million military merit points, 3 master god tier quest medals, racial divine artifact, terracotta warrior, intermediate grade race divine artifact, a race-specific divine artifact of the human race. After the Lord places it in the territory can train high-level soldier types. Terracotta warrior. The combat ability of the terracotta warrior is extremely comprehensive. Close combat, long-range attack, siege, defense, logistics, construction, all are proficient. Required military merits, 4 million military merits, 4 supreme. Mission medals. Zhou looked at the 5 racial divine artifacts he had chosen and nodded in satisfaction. Even though most of them were beginner-grade race divine artifacts, only you, the Great Nine Cauldrons, were high-level race divine artifacts. However, he had only bought it to gather the resources and conditions for the advancement of the Master God tier kingdom, so he was naturally not so picky. His gaze landed on the intermediate-grade racial divine artifact, the terracotta warrior. Then he shook his head regretfully. If it was in the past, he would definitely be overjoyed to obtain this race's divine artifact. High-level soldier types, terracotta soldiers, were not considered weak among the many terracotta soldiers after all. However, he already had the strongest divine weapons under him. Top supreme soldier types like the supreme holy mage god and the heavenly soldiers were no longer needed. Then, he opened the conditions to advance to the Master God tier kingdom and saw that the racial divine artifact had indeed been satisfied. Now, to me, there are only the 3 most difficult requirements to advance to a high-level Master God tier kingdom. Territory level upgraded to Master God tier advanced grade. Conquer the Lord territory of the beginner grade, Master God tier kingdom under the 3 Crimson Overlords. Conquer the territory of a Lord of a beginner grade Master God tier kingdom that is not under the command of the Crimson Overlord. Let's upgrade the territory to the Master God tier advanced grade first. The other 2 can't be forced. We'll just have to take it slow, Zhou thought. Then he looked at his information panel. User, Lord of the Blazing Sun, Supreme Lord's 4th Reserve Army, Ultimate Void Battleground, the 2nd leader of the Supreme Will Camp. Military merits, 6 million. Military merits. Mission medal, 10.5, Supreme God. Mission medals, other rewards, 2 universal race divine artifacts. There are still a lot of military merits and mission medals left. Then I can exchange for a few attribute immunity type divine artifacts. Zhou muttered to himself. Then he picked it up again. Soon his eyes lit up. That's it. With a thought from him, the 6 million military credits and 10 Supreme God mission medals instantly disappeared. At this point, the military merits in his hands returned to 0 again, and he only had 0.5 mission medals left. Just like the last time, it was almost completely spent. At the same time, a white bear doll appeared in his hand. Race divine artifact. Holy. Bear demon puppet. Top race divine artifact. A race divine artifact exclusive to the light spirit bear race. After the Lord places it in the territory, all the subjects under his command will obtain the strength of the bear talent. Their personal basic strength will increase by 100 kilograms. After obtaining the defense of the bear talent, their personal defense will increase greatly and reduce the physical damage they receive by 20%. After obtaining the heart of the As-I Holy Bear talent, the talent of the subjects under his command will increase slightly. When they advance to become God's spirits with the law of strength as the foundation, the probability of breaking through to become God's spirits will increase by 50%. As expected of the racial divine artifact, I spent 6 million military merits and 10 Supreme God mission medals to buy. The effect is top-notch. Zhou Fight sighed. Moreover, as one of the top 5 laws in the Supreme Great Cosmos, there were extremely few racial divine artifacts related to the law of strength. Only a divine object like the Supreme God Realm Monument would have such a top-notch race divine artifact. Otherwise, if he were to search in the myriad worlds, it would probably be very difficult for he to find such a top-notch and rare racial divine artifact, no matter how long he spent. With the enhancement of this racial divine artifact of the law of strength, they and the soldiers, under him, would have a huge advantage when facing enemies in the future, especially when facing enemies on the physics side. Then the next step is to transform it into a racial divine artifact of the Blazing Sun God race. Zhou Fight took out the Common People's Cauldron and threw the Holy Bear Demon Puppet in to receive the modifications of the Common People's Cauldron. Soon, Zhou Fight felt that 5% of his luck had been stripped out of his total luck and fused into the Common People's Cauldron. It turned into firewood for the Common People's Cauldron and began to modify the Holy Bear Demon Puppet. He could not help but click his tongue as he felt the loss of his luck. The conversion requirement of Providence was really high. Then he stopped thinking and began to wait. A moment later, boom! A low and muffled sound sounded, and the entire Common People's Cauldron shook slightly. Then the lid of the Common People's Cauldron suddenly opened automatically. A silver stream of light flew out and headed straight for Zhou Fight before, stopping in front of him. At the same time, Zhou Fight also felt it. About 15% of the power of Providence flew out from its surface and fused into his Providence. Zhou Fight could not help but exclaim, he had only consumed 5% of his Providence, but the Providence it provided was more than 15%. His luck increased by 10%. This majestic marionette was indeed worthy of being a top-notch race divine artifact that he valued. The Providence it gave back was just too much. Then he looked at the modified racial divine artifact. At that moment, his appearance had already changed drastically. From a white bear doll, he had turned into an ancient chaos-colored axe. He looked over, and information about the racial divine artifact appeared. Race divine artifact, heaven-splitting. Sacred axe, top race divine artifact. A race divine artifact exclusive to the Blazing Sun God race. It originates from the myths and legends of the Blazing Sun God race's ancient god spirit, Pangu, who created the world. Under the condensation of the faith of heaven splitting, it is a top-notch race divine artifact. After the Lord placed it in the territory, all the subjects under him obtained the power of heaven-splitting talent. Their personal basic strength increased by over 1,000 kilograms. After obtaining the blessing of heaven-splitting, their personal defensive ability increased greatly, reducing the 30% physical damage they received. The talent of the law of strength increased slightly. When using the law of strength as the foundation, the probability of breaking through increased by 80% when advancing to a god spirit. When advancing to a true god tier, the probability of breaking through increased by 50%. When advancing to a master god, the probability of breaking through increased by 10%. After reading it, Zhou Fight gasped. What a top-notch racial divine artifact. It was far stronger than the 5-element stars that he had exchanged for previously. This transformation was a huge gain. Then he looked at the name of this racial divine artifact and couldn't help but smile. Heaven-splitting. Sacred axe. It was only one word different from Pangu's heaven-opening axe. As for Pangu's heaven-opening axe, it was a companion divine artifact that had been born with he since he was born. It could grow with his strength. Under the nurturing of a large number of resources from the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom, Pangu had long reached the limit of an advanced grade Master God tier. He was only a step away from becoming a supreme god. Zhou Fight had once met he in private. If nothing went wrong, the other party should be able to advance to the supreme god level in 2 days. I wonder if Pangu knows about the existence of this heaven-splitting sacred axe? This thought flashed through Zhou Fight's mind. However, he didn't ask. In any case, the heaven-splitting sacred axe was already in his hands. There was no point in asking. He only knew a dispensable answer. Putting away the heaven-splitting sacred axe, he closed the racial divine artifact interface and opened the mission interface. After careful selection, he chose a total of 12 missions and accepted them all. They were: Conquer Grade 3, Supreme God, Realm or Territory, Ancient God, Main City, Grade 3 Supreme God Realm mission. Attack the Void Mystic Realm, exclusive mission of the Ancient God War Territory. Conquer Grade 2 Supreme God Level, War Territory. Crystal Main City, Grade 2 Supreme God Level mission. Attack the Void Mystic Realm, exclusive mission of the Crystal War Territory. Conquer a Grade 1 Supreme God Level War Territory. 9 Dragon Main City, Grade 1 Supreme God Level mission. Attack the Void Mystic Realm, exclusive mission of the 9 Dragons War Territory. Conquer a Grade 1 Supreme God Level War Territory. Purple Cloud. Main City, Grade 1 Supreme God Level mission. Attack the Void Mystic Realm, exclusive mission of the Purple Cloud War Territory. Conquer Grade 1 Supreme God Level War Territory. Windbird Main City, Grade 1 Supreme God Level mission. Attack the Void Mystic Realm, exclusive mission of the Windbird War Territory. Conquer Grade 1 Supreme God Level War Territory. Whirlpool, Main City, Grade 1 Supreme God Level mission. Attack the Void Mystic Realm, exclusive mission of the Whirlpool War Territory. Zhou Fight looked at the 12 war missions and nodded slightly. As long as he completed all these missions, 14 of the 15 war territories in the Ultimate Void battlefield would return to the Supreme Will's camp. At that time, as long as they eliminated the Ultimate Void Sanctuary where the Void Emperor's avatar was stationed, they could completely chase the Ultimate Void race out of the Ultimate Void battlefield. This way, the Supreme Great Cosmos and the Crimson Great Cosmos would no longer be disturbed by the Ultimate Void battlefield. When the time comes, the Supreme Will, the decisive battle between the Crimson Overlord and the Void Emperor, is coming, right? However, that should have nothing to do with me, Zhou Fight thought. In a decisive battle of that level, even a few true Supreme Will Realm experts would probably die. At the quasi-Supreme Will Realm, they were no different from cannon fodder. My strength is far from enough to participate in that war. At that time, as long as the Supreme Will did not ask him to go, he would definitely not get involved. His life is the most important thing. At the same time, in the Reincarnation Sacred Palace, Zhou Zhou was sitting cross-legged on the Tao Comprehension futon and cultivating. After a long time, he slowly opened his eyes. He looked at the Holy Scripture of the Heart. Floating in front of him, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face, as expected of a will-holy artifact. I feel that after cultivating in the time world for another night, my willpower will reach the advanced stage, Will Divine. Transformation Realm. When the time comes, I'm only a step away from the willpower level of the Supreme Will Realm. He muttered to himself. At that time, he would raise his cultivation realm to the quasi-Supreme Will Realm and could seek a breakthrough and advance to the Supreme Will Realm. Then, he thought of the Supreme Will Realm, True Blood Avatar. He had encountered on the Ultimate Void battlefield today. He muttered to himself, even though my strength has improved very quickly, my enemies are improving fast too. The enemy Zhou Fight encountered this time was the True Blood incarnation of the Supreme Will Realm. The next time might be the true Supreme Will Realm. I can't slack off. We have to keep trying. Only by reaching the Supreme Willpower Realm and possessing Supreme Willpower techniques, then possessing the Supreme Willpower Realm, Heavenly Fate, De Huang, and creating a large number of Supreme Willpower Realm treasures or even Will Holy artifacts through Heavenly Fate, De Huang, can I truly have the ability to protect myself. At that time, even if I face the willpower, I should be able to protect myself with a large number of Supreme Willpower resources. Zhou Zhou thought. Along the way, he had relied on the suppression of resources to defeat the enemy. Even if it was an enemy of a higher level, he could still win, with the advantage of overwhelming resources. If he couldn't win, at least it wouldn't be a problem for him to protect him. This was the reason why he had the confidence to protect himself in the Supreme Will Realm. Of course, the prerequisite was that he had to advance to the Supreme Will Realm first. He felt a sense of urgency at the thought of this.